chapter 3. And the title of the chapter is Begin with Love. Begin with Love. This is a book by Norman Vincent Peale, In God We Trust, A Positive Faith for Troubled Times. Begin with love. A new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another. As I have loved you, that you also love one another. John 13, verse 34. Without love, you are nothing. I am nothing. The world is nothing. If it were possible to sum up the teachings of Christianity in one word, that word would be love. Quote, a new commandment I give unto you, end quote, said Jesus to his disciples at the Last Supper, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. And years later, the aged Apostle John gathered people around him and told them to love one another. Some people mistake Christianity for a system of rules. You shouldn't do this. You must do that. But what some interpret as rules are only what man has added. In its beginnings, in its essence, in the simple teachings of Jesus, Christianity is a religion of love. That is basic. And this emphasis on love is not only for the purpose of making a better world, although a better world will come when we love one another. The gospel stresses love because a person will actually wither and die, ultimately, unless he has love in his heart, both for himself and other people. One of the greatest books on this subject was written by the late Smiley Blanton, with whom I had the honor to found the Blanton Peale Institute of Religion and Health. Smiley Blanton is one of the great American psychiatrists of our day, one of the great teachers, one of the great lovers of humanity. He wrote a book entitled Love or Perish. Its theme, either you love or you will perish. Here is one thought-provoking passage from the beginning of that book. To say that one will perish without love does not mean that everyone without adequate love dies. Many do, for without love, the will to live is often impaired to such an extent that a person's resistance is critically lowered and death follows. But most of the time, lack of love makes people depressed, anxious, and without zest for life. They remain lonely and unhappy with friends or work they care for. Their life is a barren treadmill, stripped of all creative action and joy. Love or perish. No wonder Jesus makes love central to his whole teaching. If you are going to live creatively, you must learn to love. A judge in Philadelphia, speaking of his experiences dealing with juveniles in trouble with the law, said that most of the young people who came before his court for discipline were hostile and aggressive. But their attitude didn't bother him nearly so much as their attitude toward their parents. Often the child's father would be outraged, quote, why do you do this to my boy? End quote, he would ask. Quote, why bring him in here? Do you know who I am? End quote. But, said the judge, never once did I see any of those fathers show any sign of affection for their teenagers. Never once did a father put his arm around his son or his daughter. Never once did he even touch his child. When a parent will show love, even by a simple act of touching, there is an opportunity for redemption. Otherwise, young people die emotionally. They did mentally. They die in their own personalities because of a lack of love. Now, to avoid any misunderstandings when talking about love, you must first define it. The kind of love I am talking about is not the type that is dished up in television soap operas or in movies. Neither is it the kind that revolves around romantic relationships. Of course, romantic love has its place in life, but it doesn't need any extra emphasis. It gets along pretty well on its own. The kind of love I mean is a deep feeling for others, for people generally, that is hard to express. If you are seeking understanding and help from someone, you can experience this communication from a smile, from a pat on the shoulder, a pat on the back. These gestures transmit that cannot easily be put into words. How do you express love? By sharing, by touching, by closeness to another. One of the most moving stories I've ever heard came out of World War One. The story is about two brothers I knew. They hadn't seen each other for many months, from the time they had left home to sail across the sea to Flanders. Then one night, some men coming out of the trenches passed a detachment of men going in to replace them. All of a sudden, in the light of the moon, these two brothers came face to face with each other. One going into the trenches, the other coming out. Now, how would you think that these two soldiers, brothers, meeting each other for a moment under circumstances of death was constantly hanging over them, how would you greet each other? They didn't say a word. They didn't ask how is mom, or how is dad, or how is Mary, or how is Genevieve, or anything of that sort. They started punching each other like they were boxing. The punches thudded from chest to chest. Then one brother said to the other, "See you, boy." The other said, "See you, kid." And they separated. Men standing by understood. This was love in its deepest expression. Girls might embrace, men often punch each other. But all who saw the expression of love were lifted by it and trudged on up or down the trench, brushing tears from their eyes. Love comes first in creative living, and to have it, you must love yourself. That is primary. That is the first thing that should be said. Love yourself. Do you truly love yourself? Oh, you say, that's easy. I sure do like myself. I'm proud of myself. But wait a minute. That isn't love. That is egotism. True love of yourself is having a deep, joyous respect for yourself, being mindful of your God given abilities and capabilities and potentials, and using them to the fullest extent possible. The gospel indicates that without this wholesome, loving respect for yourself, you cannot really love anyone else. It tells us, quote, "You shall love your neighbor as yourself," Matthew 19 and 19. This implies that if you don't love yourself, you won't love your neighbor. But if you do love and respect yourself as a child of God, then you can likewise love and respect another person as a child of God. Every human being has a story. All you have to do is show people you like them, and presently they will start talking. I was asked one day, "Where do you get all your tales about people?" The answer is from people. They are lovable, delightful. If you want people to like you, get up in the morning and say, quote, "Lord, help me to love everyone I see today. Help me at least to like them. Help me to see the good in them." Some people seem to actually enjoy not liking another. Some people seem to actually enjoy not liking people. It is the kind of enjoyment you derive from biting on an aching tooth. It's sadistic. Get to loving people. Your whole personality will change, and love will come back to you. I am giving you two simple rules for learning how to get people to like you. Develop an easy, relaxed attitude in your personal relationships. Then practice loving people. I once had a friend whom I shall never forget. I first met him when I was a young minister. I was around 28 years old, slight, thin, not weighing more than 120 pounds. I had been invited to Syracuse to preach in a church where I was, without my knowing it, on trial as a candidate. It was a university church with professors and students in the congregation. I sat almost lost in a big chair on a platform. Beside me was a huge man. I leaned toward him. Quote, Professor Tilrow, I asked, I would be interested to know what subject you teach. Professor Tilrow says, I am the Dean of College of Public Speaking, he said. I slid lower in my chair. Then he added, I do not know any more about it than you do. I just teach it. This comforted me a bit. I gave my sermon, and evidently they couldn't find anyone else to take the church, for they called me. I was there for 5 years, and whenever I would get into any difficulty, I would see Professor Rowe. He loved to go fishing. I always knew where to look for him. I would find him out along his favorite lake. Once, when something bothered me, I joined him. We sat side by side, fishing for some time, when he remarked plaintively, quote, until you showed up, the fish were biting, end quote. We had lunch, then fished some more without getting one single bite. Finally, he asked, what did you come to see me about? And I forget now, I said, and I had forgotten. All it took was snuggling up next to him. He was so great hearted. He sent out love. His mere presence helped people. So if you do not have a healthy spiritual self esteem, by all means, seek to have it. Pray about it. Read the Bible. Get closer to God. You will automatically learn to love yourself as you become increasingly aware of God's everlasting, unremitting, constant love for you. One of the greatest statements ever made is this. John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. If you were called upon to demonstrate love, what greater example could you give than this? It's the most poignant gift of love ever known in all the history of mankind. Its culmination was the crucifixion. After scourging Jesus, putting a crown of thorns on his head, laughing him to scorn, spitting on him, showing him every contempt, the Roman soldiers nailed him to a cross. Then raising the cross, they let it fall into the earth with a thud. It must have pulled every tendon and every muscle with excruciating pain. And Jesus in body was human. Yet as he hung there, what did he say? Quote, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Luke 23:34. What greater love could there be? There is no circumstance in your life where God will not stand with you and help you, no matter what it is. He understands all your troubles, all your frustrations and disappointments. He understands your many weaknesses. He loves you. A few years back, my wife and I rode with a taxi driver who was an interesting man. The name written on his license was Dutch, so I asked if he was from Europe. Yes, he said, from Rotterdam. Well, I replied, I was the minister of the old Dutch Reformed Church in New York City for 52 years. Oh, he commented in surprise, then you're Dr. Peel. Yes, sir, I said. I've been to your church, he continued, but I didn't recognize you without your robe. Yes, I said, there is a difference between a gown and a business suit, and we had a nice chat. As we drove along, he asked, have you time to let me tell you a story? It is about the time I met God, and it shows how good God is. I have great faith, sir, and I know that I can never get outside the care and love of God. It was close to the end of World War II. he began. "I was a little boy. Our country had been ravaged. The conquerors had been driven out. But we were left absolutely destitute. We had ration stamps, but they weren't any good, for we had no food at all. There was no food in the warehouses, or in the stores, or in the country districts. Holland had been swept clean of foodstuffs. We were reduced to eating beets out of the fields. It was a kind of beet that is dangerous to eat without long cooking. Even then, if you do not accompany it with other food, the chemical reaction will bloat and distend the stomach. People have been known to die from the chemical that they absorb from an overdose." He continued, "You know how beautiful Holland's tulips are? We dug the bulbs out of the ground, ate them, and that was all we had. We were desperate. Then a notice from our pastor went around telling us that there would be a meeting in the church. Since we were reduced to final circumstances, we would have a meeting and pray to God, telling him we were his children and asking him to feed us." Amen. It was the only hope we had. The big church was the only hope we had. The big church was packed. 2,000 people were present. There was no sermon. We prayed for an hour or two. The pastor prayed. The people prayed aloud all over the church. We sat there herded together, praying to God. I was only a little boy, but all of a sudden I became aware that God was right there. And I was almost frightened. I could feel him in my heart. I knew that he was present. I knew that he was going to take care of us, poor starving people. Then we sang one of those old Dutch hymns of faith, and we went out into the streets and our homes with a gnawing, empty stomach. I fell asleep. Early the next morning, we were awakened by the roar of a great armada of airplanes over Rotterdam, and there began a great shower of food. It seemed that the sky was full of great packages of food floating down to the streets of Rotterdam, filling the avenues with fine foods, and we ate, and we were saved. The driver glanced back at us from the driver's seat, and he said, "As long as I live, I will believe that God heard those prayers, and out of his great heart of love, he fed his children." And so do I believe it, and I am sure you do. Also, he is a loving God. He loves you more dearly than your mother's love for you, your father, or your spouse. You are his child. So just get to know him and trust his love. Then you will have that wholesome esteem for your own self that leads to having respect and love for all people. The next thing, once you've learned to trust God in all things, is to make loving your neighbor a conscious daily practice. In a huge city, people come at you by thousands. On the streets, so many that it bewilders you. And when you are crowded into subways or fast-moving buses or trains with so many others, it often seems insufferable. But Jesus Christ said that we should love one another. So if you and I want to live creatively and grow spiritually, we must practice loving people. Not as groups of people, but individually, in Jesus' name. And if each of us, loving himself as a child of God and loving Jesus, would really begin loving all people as our neighbors, why, we would change the world in no time. Without love, we are nothing. The Bible tells us, "I may have all knowledge and understand all secrets. I may have all the faith needed to move mountains. But if I have not love, I'm nothing. I may give away everything I have and give up my body to be burned. But if I have not love, it does me no good." Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or conceited or proud. Love is not ill-mannered or selfish or irritable. Love does not keep a record of wrongs. Love is not happy with evil, but is happy with the truth. Love never gives up. Its faith, hope, and patience never fail. Love is eternal. Praise the name of the Lord. Pastor Matthew saying, join me next time on In God We Trust, reading through this beautiful book. God bless you. Love you in Jesus' mighty name.